Hey, this is Unbound Sage, and today we're going to be doing a tier list for the imprints. This is what the people's been asking for. It is a tall task. With the help of my guild gathering the pictures for me, along with them, discussing the imprints with me, ranking them themselves, I'll present to you. This is going to be my take of it. This is not like the guild or whatever. I value certain things more than the people do, and that's okay, right? So, yeah, we'll get into it. So we do have 100 imprints to choose from. This will be legendary up until rare. Obviously, you want to get a legendary if you can, right? Especially the eternal legendaries. You're probably not going to see these again, right? Like realistically, if you pull an eternal legendary, you're not going to burn it for the imprint, right? And the imprints are pretty good in eternal legendaries. Who would have guessed? So, but we're going to cover all of them just in case you don't have enough ether. You really want to lock in your weapon. If you have a question of what the best weapon is, top this wait, do this way. No, this way. I'll be a good YouTuber one day. Top, I have the weapon tier list, very similar to this one. I will not be reading the name of it. We have to go pretty quick. There's 100 of them to get through. I will have it on screen for you though. So there it is. It's not alphabetical order, so if you need to find something, use that to skim the turn bar. I probably can't put 100 timestamps. That's a lot. That's a lot, right? But it's not alphabetical order. Just figured out that way, right? With that, let's get started with Achilles. Now, Achilles is pretty rough because it makes you take extra damage. So it's probably the 10% damage is real, but it probably goes into C because of that. Because you only need 1 stack of bleed to do, and black bleed is pretty accessible in the game, but taking extra damage is never good. So that's that. Okay, then we have Ankh. Ankh is giving us a reflect, the lowest to an ally. The first turn, they fall between 50%. So it's going to give everyone reflect once per battle. It's kind of inconsistent, and you don't like reflex. Reflect isn't going to save you, right? Reflect is it turns back a debuff, right? It doesn't like reflect damage or anything like that. Kind of a D tier, kind of bad. Okay, we have Anubis that says whenever a hero is defeated, I said I was going to read these, but we'll read them, I guess. Whenever a hero is defeated, increases hero's turn meter by 10%. This includes you guys, right? It's okay. I think C's going to be like, hey, it's not embarrassing, but you really want something better, and D is kind of embarrassing, right? It doesn't really work outside of that person's kit. The numbers like, for instance, for Ankh, right? I think it's a reflect for 2 turns on Ankh's basic or passive, so that's cool. I don't remember though. Aphrodite says gain turn meter, and then the effect is double for allies who are under speed up 2, initiative up 2. This is really an Aphrodite thing. I mean, turn meter is cool, especially on like big multi-hitting. Like we saw Artemis, for example, do an AoE 3 hit. So that's 12. That's 12% turn meter. But in most cases, it's going to be kind of bad. You're never going to get the double effect because that's an Aphrodite thing. Those are the 2 things that Aphrodite gives to the team to enable her effects. And yeah, so there's that. So then we have Artemis. Artemis says when defeating an enemy, this hero's next attack will do 25% increased damage. It could be good. I think it is above these guys. I think these guys are actually just kind of bad. I think it kind of goes into the B tier, where there are worlds where like you clear a wave with your core, and then the next wave you go in and you do 100% more damage with your ultimate, double damage. So that is pretty neat, right? And on these like slayers, but it's kind of hard to do. And it's asking a lot of you to kind of set stuff up, like have your ultimate ready for the next wave. You can't save your ultimate then, because if you basic attack, you're kind of losing that damage charge. So yeah, something to consider. And now we have Athena. Athena says when an ally is under shield and attacked, a chance to petrify them for 1 turn. If you have our AoE shielder boy, Heimdall, right? Heimdall's gonna have shield on everybody, and you have this on Heimdall. When they do an AoE attack, they're probably getting petrified, right? They are likely to be petrified, right? It's gonna check each shield they hit. Also, it is attacked, it's not hit, so it wouldn't be like multi-hitters wouldn't apply here. but it's really good. I think this is our first S tier. You know, shielding is good anyway, and then adding CC to attacking into shields. What one more could you ask for? Very good. And it works with Heimdall, right? And I think a big thing with these imprints will be, do they have a good champion? Like, do they have a home, right? For either a champion or a weapon. I think a thing that has a really great home with Heimdall, with like even like Brynhild's like Awakening gives a nice shield, right? So any shield giver, which is a common mechanic, right, in these types of games, even an uncommon or a common shield maiden has it. Like, she could be your Athena holder until you pull these Heimdalls and Brynhilds and stuff. All right. Aya says, at the start of combat, give this character or give this hero initiative based off of their speed, 10%. Bad. Your speed, you're gonna give like 30 initiative. That's not worth an imprint slot, honestly. Like, it does help. It is something. It's better than Ankh for sure, but it's nothing, right? Moving on, we have Babby. Next, we have Babby. Babby says, chance to counterattack when attacked, and will always counterattack when receiving a taunt debuff. I mean, man, this is just half of like, this is like Wukong levels of good, right? This is getting smacking back. This is really good on people that have really potent cores, right? Think of you know, especially like a Green Knight that is like taunting people, like a Horus even that's taunting people. I think Horus already counterattacks, but you get the idea, right? These big beefy guys that have really impactful like basic attacks. You know, you're just gonna get more of those. Very good. Right, attacking out turn is always good. Okay, that says we have a chance to remove any debuff placed on this hero. It's kind of cool. It's helpful, but that 15% chance is pretty low, right? And so I don't think we care about Bastet passive that much. That's just how it is. On the other hand, we got Balk. Balk says a 25% chance to counterattack when this hero receives a debuff or disable. Yeah, that's pretty good. So the thing is with this, we saw in the alpha, Balk imprint was really good against Fafnir because he's just laying out these debuffs on you. Every turn you're getting like 3 debuffs. And we've seen Balk, the character, attack like 3 times. If that stays a mechanic, this is really good. Even a 25% chance, like you're on average going to counterattack like once against like a Fafnir level boss that's like throwing at all these debuffs at you. But against other bosses, you don't know how many debuffs are coming your way, right? Like, well, the only fight we know is the Daimyo fight. There are a couple debuffs there, but it's not like Fafnir level of debuffs where we really got to see this imprint and this character shine. Remember, this is an imprint guide, by the way. But anyway, Balk is really good still, right? I think it's under Athena. I think I value Athena a little bit more, but yeah. Next one, we got Beowulf. Beowulf says, increase 15% more damage to brawlers and bosses. Yep. 15% more damage is 15% more damage. And it's damage where it matters. It won't help you with wave content, unless it's brawlers, of course. But I think that's not what people bring it for. It's that 15% extra damage on bosses. It's really reliable as well. So, good. Awesome. Then we have Bran. Bran says, transfer 10% damage from this hero to the allies. Transfer 10% of damage inflicted to allies to this hero. Yeah, that's pretty good, right? Gives your whole team kind of damage negation, DR, right? Damage resistance. Well, also kind of like you can choose to put on. So you put on like, you know, your people, your really tanky people, right? People with a lot of HP. So this is good for like, you know, tanky brawlers or defenders are obviously the best target for its defenders. Next we have Brynhild. Brynhild says, when under Radiance, place Blaze 1 on the enemies that attacked for 1 turn. It is only Blaze 1. It is only under Radiance. Your Radiance users have much better things to do, and Blaze 1 for 1 turn is kind of unimpressive. I think I value the turn meter more than this. It's not useless, but I think I value Aphrodite's turn meter more than Brynhild. Just because this is like 2% damage for one. It's going on one person. You need Radiance up. This isn't really doing a whole lot for you. So, okay, K-Sith gives us Vanish for 1 turn, and under Vanish we have 10% increased accuracy. I think this goes kind of at the top of C, where like there might be people that really care about it, but most of the time, Vanish doesn't protect you from AoEs in any way, shape, or form. It just protects you against targeting, and the accuracy is kind of negligible. If it matters, this is really a PvP thing, right? I think against like a Herc, where you see the enemy has a Hercules, you think you're gonna be the stun target. You have the K-Sith imprint on, and then you can't be targeted, and then you have a better chance to land your accuracy thing. Now we're on to Camazotz. I believe Camazotz was our second Eternal Legendary, right? Because we have Aphrodite's here. I think that's, yeah. But it's the first new one, right? And he is stealing 10 meter on critical hits, and if it's strong, you steal more. Strong hits kind of unreliable in this game. There hasn't really been engineered ways to get more than like 60% from what I've seen with like the Mulan with a strong hit enabler thing. But critical hit, I mean, imagine Shinigami. We have these 2 waves coming in, right? And then we're stealing 5% turn meter from everybody on the crits. That's not bad, man. I like Camazotz. I think it's probably better than Bach. I think it's around Athena level. I think you could go either way, and I'd be cool with it. Yeah, I think I like Camazotz more because I tend to like Slayers more. This is a crit thing, but either one I can see going either way. We have Saridin. Saridin says increase damage inflicted on order goes down, damage inflicted on chaos, or damage inflicted by chaos units goes up. So she kind of plays both sides here. I think both are pretty good, especially on a rare imprint. I'm thinking maybe the top of B or the bottom of A. She's like really on this like line here, because I think I'm gonna put her on the bottom of A because this is 10 DR to everybody. I think I really value that versus this is 5% damage resistance to everyone, or 5% damage up. We really don't see these blanket buffs on imprints a lot more, and even less so now. So it is nice though, right? It is nice to just an early imprint, especially it's on a rare. So I could definitely see this imprint in game. You're not gonna take it for the mini game, I don't think, but like in game, I could just be throwing on just like your invoker that you don't have a better imprint for. It's like, hey, you might as well just take more damage, whatever. Cool, I like it. Sizzin is next. Sisson's currently reads about taking max HP damage under Blaze. I have heard whispers that this is not going to be what it is in the final game. Just from the Simon comment saying that Sisson shouldn't have been showed, and just just from conversations with different people, it's highly likely this is going to change. I'm not going to rate it then. Sisson looks like a crazy character, and I'm sure they're going to keep the imprint to that kind of power level. If this is an imprint is as written, it's the top of S tier. It trivializes all content. Even if it gets capped in some way, it's still really good. As long as the cap is like 60 or 70, it's probably still like an A or B. But I don't feel comfortable rating it, just knowing that Sisson maybe shouldn't have been shown in that case. So, yeah. Next, we have Cleopatra. At the start of each turn, at the start of this hero's turn, increase divinity of all allies. This is really bad. 10 divinity is a drop in the bucket. When you have even low divinities are like 8,000 or 800, that's that's not even like almost 100th of their divinity. And if you have someone in the range of like what we saw of old Odin's ultimate, right? That's 2,000 divinity. Ooh, no, not gonna happen, right? Next we have Cyclops. Cyclops says take 10% less damage from critical hits. This is a PvP unit. 10% DR in PvP. Like in PvP, I probably rate it like probably like here-ish. But in general, most of the PvE is not going to crit you. Probably somewhere like here. But there is PvP use for it. Keep that in mind. So we have Divana next saying when an enemy increases a turn meter, this hero has a chance to counterattack with their basic attack. This is really good. I think this is probably here. I'm sure there'll be, we saw like Fafnir gain turn meter in certain times. I believe it was Fafnir. There are bosses that, gain turn meter from certain effects. So you'll be able to counterattack. And then obviously in the arena, we have like these Quetzalcoatl leads where imagine like Quetzalcoatl leads and then your person goes bang, 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 bang. Right. That also tells us about Divana a little bit as well. It's probably 100% chance to counterattack when people raise their thing. So Divana looks like a pretty cool character. All right, next we have Dracula. Dracula says, if they are under bleed at the start of the enemy turn, your next attack increases by 5%. I misunderstood this during my Dracula video. This is actually pretty cool. If you have bleeds up on the entire enemy team, you're probably doing 20% more damage every turn. Therefore, it has to be better than, so like the Beowulf one, right? It's probably about with the Divana one, I would say. Probably like here-ish. I think at the top of A. Obviously, you have to have bleeders to enable it. But especially if you're someone like Dracula, who your core doesn't do damage, you can really like do 40% more damage on a big ultimate turn. So yeah, I think that's pretty good. It's 20% more damage under bleeds. Very good. Then we have Inky. Inky says increase healing from Mends by 25%. So Men does, I think, 10% of your max HP. Might be 5. I think it's 10. So that's pretty good, right? And then at the start of this hero's turn, activate Mends on this hero. I think it's cool. You need a Mend user, and activating Mends is something we might not want to do with Excalibur being out. I think the primary Mend user is Isis that will probably have an Excalibur. And if you have Isis with an Excalibur, you don't really want to be popping the Mends. You want them to just kind of sit there for the damage buff. And so I think I put him probably right here-ish, where he's pretty good. Yeah, I think the top of B is where I like him. He's pretty good, but it's not like, if you're not using Excalibur, it's pretty good. Like getting that extra healing, turning Mends into kind of burst heal is kind of cool. But the more I think of it, the more I have a hard time kind of seeing where this is happening at. So, all right, next we have Eurydice. Whenever an enemy with a debuff takes a turn, decrease their divinity by 5%. Like right here ish. So I like the crit. Yeah, I think Eurydice goes here. You don't really need it. Don't worry about it. Right. Fisher King. When a mortal prevents this hero's death, you get stats. Okay. Next question. I don't think if you're relying on a mortal to save you, you're probably going to die. Obviously, we don't know like the Fisher King's effect, and like maybe he has more immortal stuff, right? It makes sense with like the Holy Grail and whatever. But on other characters, I think of like Herc, who's getting like 1 stack of immortal. I'm thinking of like Wukong, who gets a stack of immortal when he dies. Like, it's not that much for what you have to go through. And if your immortal is triggering, you're probably in a rough spot and you're probably going to die anyway. So I think it's pretty bad. All right, next we have Fricky. Fricky says heal for 50% of the damage inflicted when hitting an enemy under bleed. Bleeds placed by this do 10% more damage. Yep, I think it goes right next to Dracula, right next to our other bleeder. And it's actually really good on Dracula, right? Because Dracula's already bleeding a ton. He's doing decent damage as well. Might as well double down on that like healing fantasy. Cool. Then we have Freya here. Freya says when this hero inflicts a critical hit, heal for your initiative. Even if your initiative is 300, you're healing for like just under 4K. And so when you crit, I don't think this is going to keep your damage dealers alive. I don't think this is, and the people that have the really high initiative, they don't crit, right? These are people like, You know, these are people that care about their ultimates, but you know, they're invokers, right? They can have these really high initiative. They can fit the initiative stat into their kit. I don't think the average person is going to use this at all. Fusion. Fusion says when reduce damage this hero takes by AoEs by 15%, is 15% DR. I think that this is a way to keep your Namsaru user alive. Because a big thing about Namsaru is you can't have buffs, of course. So consider that as well. I think that goes right here with the other DR guy. Maybe I think 10% DR to your team is better than a greedy DR just from AoE attacks. Oh, no, better. So it should be this way. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's about right. Bottom of A. I think it's very strong, and it has more value when you're using Namsaru, right? Now we have Galwin. Galwin says when an ally receives a disable, there's a 20% chance this hero receives it instead. It's probably at the right here. It's really, if it was 100%, be phenomenal, right? But at 20%, it's really unreliable. So I think it goes at the bottom of D tier. Now we have Giri. Giri says when an ally drops below 50%, this hero places protect one of them for 1 turn. This is not like Onks once per turn. This is whatever. And it's kind of a relevant debuff at 50%, kind of keeping them safe, taking some damage for them. I think that goes probably like here-ish, right? Maybe a little bit better. Maybe here. I like this. This is cool. Right, I think that there's definitely some places I'd want to use this, but in general, I'd rather use these other ones up here. All right, we have Gilgi. Gilgi says, when an ally and enemy activates their ultimate, this hero gets 5% divinity. Pretty cool. I think it goes like right smack in the B tier. Needs the right team to work, but you know, could really help you cast some of the ultimates in the right space, right, in the right area. All right, now we have Gog Magog. Gog Magog says, get more resistance, get more defense whenever you take damage. Probably pretty okay, right? There's so many better options for your defenders. You know, it takes a while to stack this up as well. Especially if this goes between waves or not, too. If you have to stack this up every wave, it's kind of rough. So I think right here is probably a good spot for it. Green Knight. Reflect 15% of the damage inflicted to this hero back to the enemy. For those of you who were here for Alpha Wave 2, this was how we got non-millions of damage, right? You would just do the Fafnir fight until Fafnir scaled, and then you would reflect the damage back. You would drop your... You basically were taking 0 damage from Fafnir. Fafnir was infinitely scaling, and then you would break the glitch, and then Fafnir would do 10 non-million damage, and then you would reflect back 1 non-million damage, and that's how we did it. It's still good, man. Like, reflecting back damage guaranteed, especially if the bosses are hitting pretty hard. I don't know if this is pre or post mitigation damage, but it's really good on brawlers if it's post mitigation damage, which I think it is, if I think about it, right? So you want low defense, high HP for this. I probably put it below, like in between Freki and Dracula. I really like this a lot. And anyone who played the alpha knows that Green Knight is the only thing that could stop a Zeus, because Zeus would kill himself on Green Knight passive. So take that for the grain of salt as well. All right, we have Grendel. Grendel's getting more speed initiative the lower the HP they are. I don't like this. It messes up your speed tunes, right? It's probably better than getting turn meter. Yeah, but probably worse than all of these. Yeah, I think Grendel's right about here, in my opinion. Guan Yu. Now, usually for these like quick drain or quick like do more damage, they're not rated this as high as Guan Yu is going to be rated. But Drain is already a damage amplification. It's not just lifesteal in this game. You also do more damage. At least you did in the alpha, right? So when you have a debuff that's already doing a damage amp, and then you add damage amp to that, that's happy days. It goes right here, I think. Right next to the other damage amping. Yeah, I think that's about right. Cool. Hades has a mouthful. But he's putting curse on people, right? Putting curse and then bounces around. This really, it makes sense in his kit because Hades is doing a lot, but curse 2 is 50% less healing and shielding. Kind of lackluster, I think. Probably around here. What I'm thinking. Heimdall. When this hero is under a buff, 30% chance to reflect any debuff. Man, this is so much worse than Heimdall's because Heimdall gives it to the entire team. Kind of bad, but it's pretty. It's like useful. It's relevant, like reflecting debuffs, but the percent chance hurts. Also, you need accuracy. Yes, accuracy is needed for this. I just remembered that. So whoever's reflecting it back needs to have the accuracy to actually land the debuff. So keep that in mind. Now we have Hell. Hell says gain 5 attack every time an ally or enemy is revived up to 10 times. Now in Hell's kit, this makes a lot of sense, right? Because she revives enemies under Confuse. She can kind of stack it herself. And, you know, when you do it to a whole wave, it's 40% more attack with one ultimate. Makes a lot of sense. When you put it on someone else, though, a lot of your revivers, don't care about having attack, which means you have to have like a kind of a team up thing. And that's like, okay, you have like Shamash and picked up one person. You know, for all of that, you do 5% more damage. It's not really worth it. Probably goes in like the Achilles level of like, yeah, hey, you get some damage, but it's not really worth doing. We have Herc now. Herc says when you die, you come back with half HP. Turns out that's pretty good. That's really, really good. So it's not a revive, though. It does prevent the death and then bring you back to full, right? So you shouldn't, you know, the way it reads, you shouldn't die, or you should just come back with 50. So I don't know if you can get overkilled or not, but still good regardless. Hippolyta says, give everyone defense based off of if they match this hero's faction or not, right? It gets everyone. So if you have 3 people matching the faction, all 5 of your units get like 5% defense. Okay. It's kind of hard to match factions, but if you're a faction matcher, if there's faction crypts as well, this could be very good. But even then, it's kind of a little lackluster, but whatever. Now we have Horus. Horus says, when attacked by enemies under taunt, increase turn meter of all allies by 2.5%. It's okay, but taunt's kind of hard to get your hands on, right? From what we know about. And even then, in Horus's kit, it's pretty cool because he can perpetually taunt people. But in general, it's probably a little bit better than all of these guys. Probably like the bottom of B, I would say. Now, Icarus. It's 3% initiative or 3% speed. And honestly, it's 3% speed, right? You're not going to do this. In 99.9% of situations, it's like pretty meh. It's not the main stats. But when you're having speed lead battles in arena where every inch matters, it's like up here, right? So I think of like the hyper late game when you are like trying to squeeze out just like, 10 more speed, right? Because it's about what this would be, right? 10 to 15 more speed. But I think in general, if you're not running that kind of team, those teams don't tend to be the absolute best in arena either. It's just a style of high level team, but it's not like the cutting edge teams, right? Most cutting edge teams are like actually go second tanky teams. I think Icarus is pretty bad, except for that very niche situation. Now we have Imhotep. Imhotep says, place ward on the ally with the lowest HP at the start of each round. Okay, well, that's pretty good, right? This could stop your nukers from getting nuked. It doesn't need to be on the person that's benefiting, right? You can put this on someone else on the team. I think because of that, it goes kind of like here-ish. maybe? Yeah, I think like right here is a good place for it. We have Isolde, the most nerfed one I have ever seen in my entire life. When a defender is healed, it only heals the imprint holder now. It does not heal your entire team like it used to. Gone are the days of running 5 Isolde imprints. I mean, maybe, right? But gone are the days. I don't think it's nerfed into the ground. I think that there is still going to be places where you use it. However, it's pretty gone. I probably like here-ish, where it has a use case, but don't really care. Next, we have Kichinahu. Kichinishahu. When you're under blaze, you lose effectiveness, but you gain damage. Oh, when this hero is damaged by his blades, you take less damage. Oh yeah, this is kind of dookie. Kind of bad. I thought it was when you did damage to other people. It's like, wow, this is so good. No, it's so bad. I think right here, like maybe in like Fafnir, where you're getting hit by, you're like doing 20% damage against Fafnir because you're gonna take all the blazes from all your friends. But in most cases, it's kind of bad. Okay, so we have now Huishek. Enemies under res down or a knit down do 10% less damage when attacking this hero. Pretty useless. Those are not premier buffs. Debuffs, we're not going to have them up very often. And it only affecting the holder of the imprint. Very bad. If this was like a whole team damage resist, then this would be going up a lot higher. This would probably be maybe the Guan Yu, like Beowulf level. But can't support your team with it. It's very greedy, and it's you don't care about these debuffs, so who cares? I think this is the worst one so far. Maybe I should be actually ranking these. I've just been throwing them down here, but I haven't been ranking them. If they're in D, they're all equal. They're all equally. I don't care about them. Okay, Lada. When an enemy is healed, allies receive 5% of the healed amount. It's not a lot. Like, let's think here. If all allies get the healing, but it's not that much. It's 20% of the healing you get back to your team. It's probably like here-ish, probably with like the Hades kind of thing, where like, I guess I care about curse sometimes when the enemy's healing. I think I'd rather just prevent their healing than heal myself. So I guess Hades is higher then. Yeah, somewhere in here, I think. Fine. Lady Jacques. If this was Alpha 3, it's the very best one. It was bugged. But doing 1% damage per stack of bleed is rough. Probably better than Achilles. Probably around the Heimdall level. Maybe a little bit worse. Like here. It's just hard to get all these bleeds stacked up, man. And you have to work for your 10% damage amp. Compared to Guan Yu, who just gets it as soon as he slaps on the debuff, and the debuff is very like cohesive with what the game plan is. When you're doing bleed stuff, it's usually because you don't want to do direct damage, right? So, and then if you want to do direct damage, there are better choices. Lamashtu. Lamashtu says, when this hero defeats an enemy, they explode for 25% of their attack. To all enemies, which is ignore resistance, it is true damage, but it cannot be critical. I think this is really, really bad. I think this is one of the worst imprints in the game. Probably a little bit better than Fisher King, because Fisher actually does something. The problem with Lamashtu, let me explain it, is how much attack are you having on your like key big boy heroes? We saw Zeus with 6k. So I hit with Zeus with my 6k attack. And I kill something, which is to be expected, right? And I get rewarded with 1500 true damage to the rest of the things. That is a drop in the bucket, right? We saw Zeus doing like, 150,000 damage with both of his swings. That is a 1% damage increase, right? It is, hits 3 other people, so it's a 3% damage increase. And that is best case scenario. Zeus has one of the highest attacks in the game. And you have to connect with a kill to get this. The numbers is just bad. Don't be fooled by ignoring 100% of their defense. Slayers do a lot of damage because they have a lot of multiplication going on. They multiply, like think of Hell. She gets more attack from her thing, and then you give her an attack up, and then you give her sharpen, and then you give her crit damage, and then all these multiply together to get you your big hit. Taking a quarter of half of those numbers, or one of those numbers, is nothing. The multiplication is where you get these big numbers from. That's when you see the big explosion. That's when the damage, like the damage matters, right? But without the multiplication, it's just bad, right? I see a lot of people praising this very highly. I think Lamashtu is a huge trap. Like, I think it's only good, like, really, when you're in the realm of, like, what would be a good number? Like 30,000 attack, which is just not obtainable, right? Then you start talking about damage. But, like, when you're at, like, 6,000, it's 1,000 true damage to the rest of the team. It's nothing, right? Anyway, hot take. I'd love to hear your comments below. Let me know what you think about it, right? Anyway, next up, we have Leonidas. 30% chance to receive to convert 50% of the damage into a barrier. The barrier cannot exceed 10% of this hero's HP. It is a way to get some DR, right? It is on average. What is this? Is it 1 point? No, it's 15% DR, kind of like paying it forward a little bit. But you can't exceed 10% of this hero's HP. That's the big one, right? You want to put this on like a Slayer where you're trying to keep them alive. However, right, Slayers don't take 20% of their HP. They take half. They really do. And so I think that puts it probably in like the Brynhild Aphrodite area. We're like, yeah, hey, it's, but it's, it's chance to activate too. Yeah, I think it goes like right here where it's not useless, but like it's not really good. If you want DR, look for like Fusion, right? Who gives you 15% DR against, stuff and things. You get it, right? Next up, we have Leshy. Leshy has a chance to attacks have a 50% chance to increase divinity by 2.5% when attacking under Vanish. 50% chance for not a big initiative gain for a pretty rare debuff, and it's very greedy. I think it's probably like here-ish. Where it's like, yeah, divinity's great, but like, who's enabling this, right? Next up, we have Loki. When sleep is removed or expired, decrease the turn meter by 10%. So you need to be popping the sleep, right? You need to be popping the sleep. So, and Loki is really good because on the A3, you get the speed down, which is really, really good. But I think with just the half of the turn meter, I think it's probably like with the Anubis range, where it's kind of like you're doing turn meter things pretty rarely, right? All right, next we have Lubu. Lubu says, when this hero has barrier, do more damage and reduce the damage received by 10%. This is 10% DR. The problem is when you have a barrier on people that care about doing damage, the barrier is usually really small, and it's usually from one of their attacks. So I think it's probably the bottom of B tier because of the way you usually get barrier. You're probably not going to see it most times. So this is just like a greedy 10% DR with barrier users. So it's kind of niche as well, which is fine, right? I mean, I don't even, this doesn't even feel bad putting on like Shishi doesn't have barrier. He has a shield now, right? What's a barrier user? Like kind of like like Herc, right? Getting Herc 10% damage reduction. Cool. But when he does his ultimate, but you're like that barrier just melts, right? Like, okay, I got my barrier, I ulted, right? And with Herc, it makes more sense because it's in the ult, but like most people get barrier from their cores and passives whenever they do stuff. So I think it's good, but I don't think it's like quite up to here. Maybe it's a little bit better than the stuff. Yeah, probably like here then. Top of B. Moving forward, we have Babon. Babon says when an ally receives a disable, a 30% chance to increase their turn meter by 5%. Is that more do nothing than Lamashtu? Yeah, I think so. I think that's more do nothing. Yeah, it's not doing a whole lot. It's kind of bad. All right, next up we have Maria Marevna. She's at the bottom because I missed her in my first pass. Maria Marevna says increased damage inflicted by 1.5 for each buff on the target. Kind of down here. It's more of a do nothing thing. Most people aren't going to have like, they're going to have like 2 buffs on them, and then it's a 3% damage increase against the target that has the buffs. These buffs are often defense up, by the way. I don't really want that. So, yeah, Maria's probably with these guys here, kind of useless. Moving forward, we have Medstili. Medstili says, when you use an ability, 25% chance to spread a random buff to allies. We see how good buff spread is, especially on like Isis, right? And then it's every time you use an ability. I think this probably is in like the S tier. Probably. I think I don't like it as much as Bach. But when you have like an Isis with Excalibur, it just helps that Excalibur scaling faster. It's gonna be at max stacks, so like 2 or 3 turns faster on average. So yeah, cool. Next we have Minotaur. Now on vibes, Minotaur is S. I love Minotaur. You can ask the Hive Mind guys whenever we're talking. I'm like, but what about Minotaur imprint? But it gives you 10% chance to 10% increase the chance to strong hit by 10% when you're at full divinity. Has a cost of full divinity, but strong hit increasers are exceedingly rare. But in actuality, it's like here. It's kind of in this vibe where like it technically does something useful. You know, it is on average, it's 3% more attack. Man. But you do have riders that go with it too. But the more I talk about it, the more, maybe it's down here. I'll never admit it. You can't get me to. It's bad though. Don't worry about it. Wakash! Whenever a buff expires or is removed, heal them for 5% of their max HP. That's cool. Right? Gives our buffers a little bit of healing. This is a team-wide heal as well. It's a little touch-up. When you have, I think like Heimdall, this doesn't feel that bad on too. It's just like, okay, you did the retaliate and intercept. Is it intercept? Yeah, on the core, right? And then it's like, okay, yeah, you're gonna get some healing, and they'll put the shield up, and then whatever. Cool. Yeah, I think it's probably around Horus level, right? It's cool. It's doing stuff. Mordred says enemies have a 30% chance to reflect 50% of the damage when attacked by an ally. So this can happen either through charm or through confuse. Reflect 50% back to them is kind of meh. It's kind of a do nothing, where like charm and confuse already do really low damage. And when you have 50% less of that, it really doesn't do anything, especially on a 30% chance. This could be 100% chance to reflect like all of the damage back, but since you're being damage reduced by charm and by confuse, it would only be like here if it has 100% chance to reflect all damage back. Like, and when you add the chance and stuff, it's really a do nothing. It's probably right with right, with her. Where like on paper, it technically does something, but in actuality, it's not doing anything, right? But this next one is completely the opposite. It's doing something all right. This is the one I have locked into my minigame right now. It is Morrigan, which is when whenever an enemy receives a buff, there's a 50% chance to reduce the duration. When an enemy receives a debuff, there's a 50% chance to increase the duration. Yeah, that's pretty good. Like this makes your blazes last longer. This makes your acids last longer. This makes your defense downs last longer. Your attack downs last longer. And if they ever receive a buff, they might not. And we saw in the Daimyo fight, they are giving out one-turn buffs and one-turn debuffs. I talked about that in my video, my Daimyo video. It's here if you want to talk about it. This way, right? Imagine that their buffs don't exist 50% of the time. Wow, that's pretty good. And then, PvP especially as well. Like, imagine the Hercules doing the labors and he doesn't get his immortal, so his core doesn't do double damage, right? Or Wukong doing his passive and he doesn't get the immortal. He just dies, right? Does it say prevent or does it say give him immortal? We'll get there when we get there. But there's a chance the Morrigan imprint just says, okay, you actually just die. Just ignore that. And with so many other unifications, it has to be the best one we've seen so far. It is so incredibly good. Now, next, we have Mulan, which increases our chance of strong hit when under Vanish. It's right with Minotaur, right? You have to go through some hoops to get 10%. Strong hit, meh. I mean, like, here's the thing, right? With these two, most characters can only get to 40% strong hit chance when attacking into their affinity. 10% when you're attacking into your strong affinity, right? The one that you're strong into, not good, right? Who cares, right? Next up, we have Neza. Neza says sack 15% of your current HP so it can't kill you, right? Unless you're at like literally 1 HP, then maybe it can kill you, but like it's not going to kill you, right? And then increase your damage by 15%. That's real. That's real damage increasing. There is a cost there, but if you're in this like ISIS heavy healing team, right? If you're using like kind of a Dracula thing, pretty good. I think probably in the A tier, probably around like the Guan Yu Beowulf, probably a little bit worse than Beowulf. Yeah, probably at the bottom of A tier, I think. Right, it's pretty good though. Definitely deserves to be up here, I think. In my humble opinion of doing a lot of damage. I'm a sucker whenever I see a multiplier. Especially when like 15% is one of the higher ones we see on passives here. Okay. So now we have Nectocris. Nectocris says, at the start of this hero's turn, steal divinity from the enemy with the highest turn meter. So we're stealing 5% of their divinity. So we can't be controlling how much divinity we gain. So probably like the Hippolyta area, maybe worse, maybe like the right here, where it's like you can't ever control how much divinity you're gaining. You can't control who you're getting it from. It has to be from the highest turn meter. Now it does maybe, there was this cool thing with the Golden Guardian where maybe you can speed tune this to steal divinity at the last second, right before they take their turn so that their ultimate's not ready. Interesting. If that's the case, it probably goes up to like A tier because it's like cheesable. But I think in most cases, it's going to be probably around the Heimdall area, right? Now, Oda Nobunaga says increase damage inflicted by this hero by 5% and decrease damage received by 5%, stacking up to 5 times when you beat an enemy. This is strictly, does it stay between waves or not? You have to be the one that gets the kill. But I love multipliers. I really do. I think this is probably the top of it. I think it's S. I think it's better than this. This is really good because it enables. This imprint is strong because it enables an already strong character. Like Mesali enables Isis Excalibur to go off. So it's a really good combination. But I think Oda is going to be maybe the premier Slayer one besides Wukong. And so, like I like Oda. Yeah, I like Oda a lot, right? Because this is 25% more damage, but you don't have to get hit for it, right? Because you're attacking 25% of the time. This could trigger multiple times a turn, though. You can't talk me down. This is my tier list. Lyco, you can say that I'm stupid. It's fine, but I think it's right here. He's going to disagree with that, though. Anyway, Orpheus. Orpheus says, a 20% chance to increase the divinity of all allies by 25 when this hero places a buff on them. So, 20% chance on average when you're placing a buff, you give everybody, what is that, 5 divinity? Goes right with, that's worse than Cleopatra. So we put it right next to Cleopatra, but worse. It's such a drop in the bucket. It really doesn't matter. Osiris, 10% more damage, unconditional. Because if you put this on a Slayer, when Slayers get hit, they die. So you'll never be under 50% HP. That's the secret. So it goes right here. Yeah. Anyway, that's simply it. It's 10% more damage. This was the go-to damage imprint non-legendary in the alpha. And I think it's going to be the same thing with what we see so far. This is your, hey, you want to do more damage? Sacrifice this very niche epic, and now you have 10% more damage. And we have other ways to get imprints as well. And with it being a rare, it's probably going to be more likely to be gotten in the game. 10% more damage is 10% more damage, and it's not easy. It's easy to keep people above 10% HP, right? It's not a super hard downside to do. We have Pandora. Pandora says, has a 25% chance to transfer 1 debuff onto this hero when attacking enemies. Okay. AoE attacks are going to be transferring debuffs. Yeah, I like this. Probably better than Imitat. Probably like here. You have to have a debuff to give, right? But against certain bosses and such, right? Giving debuffs back is cool. I like it. Pengu. We love Pengu. Pengu says you can control if you're stealing turn meter or divinity based off of your stats. Pengu's doing stuff like that, man. Stealing 10% turn meter from the target. This is AoE too, right? Is this like, if I use this on Shinigami and I have more speed, now if I have more initiative than speed, am I stealing 80% turn meter? It's not each hit. No, it doesn't say hit. It says attacks. Still, though, very good. I think it's probably in these, like, really, I call this area, like, kind of the niche, but good in their niche, right? Like, kind of these, like, top 5 here on the A tier. Is, like, if you're doing the thing, they really reward you for it. I think it's, like, right here. Yeah. Azuzu! Azuzu's doing turn cuts when you gain buff, and guess what? People are gaining buffs. Probably next to Morgan, right? Like in PvP, this is nuts, and in PvE, this is you can exploit this, right, and really take turns. I like it. Not much to say. Percival, increase the resistance by 5% for each buff you are under. I value the resistance stat, and there are a lot of buffs going out, but like at the end of the day, it's probably at the bottom of usable, where like you can engineer fights to help you hit resistance thresholds. But yeah, it's meh. Okay. Persephone says, when an enemy gains a debuff, also decrease their divinity meter by 2.5%. I think that's pretty good, right? And I think again, of Shinigami, someone who's just throwing out a ton of debuffs, kind of adding to divinity meter shenanigans. It's probably maybe the top of B. Yeah. It's not as good as like damage negation, like DR and stuff. I don't think it's giving me enough divinity drain to be like, I'm in. But it's relevant, right? Maybe there's a boss, we know the daimyo wants to ult to kind of like progress its stuff. So debuffs on the daimyo slows it down. That could be irrelevant. That could buy you another turn. So yeah, I think I'm down with it. Yeah, I think top of B. Cool. Let's keep going. We got Paloon. Paloon says whenever an enemy has their turn meter decreased, increase this hero's turn meter by 2%. Yeah. Wukong. Right? Wukong's ultimate is just taking a ton of turn meter. But outside of Wukong, it's kind of meh. It's probably the top of C. If you're taking turn meter, I think you'd be doing better things with your life than just increase your turn meter a little bit. So, anyway, Polnicia deals 20% increased critical damage to enemies under Blaze. That's 20% more damage to enemies under Blaze. So if you're doing Blaze and you have to do the crit too, you have to do both sides of it, probably around a Neza level. Like Neza is doing 15% unconditional. This is 20% more damage, but very conditional. Like the bottom of A. I like damage, sure. Okay. We have Polyphemus. Does extra damage to allies under a disable. Usually you're disabling people to buy you time. So when you're bringing damage, like disables into a fight, you usually don't need damage. If that makes sense. Like sometimes you do, but I don't think 10% conditional is going to help a lot. It's probably like Heimdall area. We have Raw. Raw says, whenever blazes go away, right, or activate, increase damage to your next ultimate by 5%. So it's fine. Okay, right? 20% more damage to your ultimate. You kind of stack this up too. But I think it kind of runs into the thing where you need blazes and you need to then have a high damaging ultimate as well. The game's asking a lot from you in this case. So I think it's probably like a Perun thing where like it kind of gives you something cool, but it's asking a lot of you as well. Maybe here, right? We'll put these two together. If this makes sense, right? Horus and Heimdall. Wow, Horus and Raw being together makes sense to me. Ramses is kind of the middle of the road starter. He always was, right? Lady Jacques always felt like the wave starter. Juan, you always felt like the boss starter, and then Ramses fell in this nice in between. I think the same thing happens here. Probably like here-ish, I would say, where you're doing 10% more damage under acid. Acid again is a debuff that is not. We don't care about doing extra damage to enemies under acid. While like drain is a damage simplification, but it is easier to achieve than having full stacks of bleed. I think it makes it better than Lady Jacques, but worse than the Guan Yu one. Next, we have Cirrus. 10% chance to take an extra turn when attacking. Right, that's important when attacking. Right, so you can't be buffing. It's not super great on your invokers that are only healing and stuff. But dude, the dark tech, like taking extra turns, are pretty valuable. Is it better? I think I like Pazuzu a little better than Cirrus. Because Pazuzu can be put on anyone and have them cut in, while Cirrus has to be on an attacking person. But man, the fact this could proc, you have a 1 in 100 of proccing this twice. They just die, right? And so I think this is really good. Right, once again, it's only on attackers, right? It's only on whatever, but consider that, right? Next, we have Set. Set says Whenever an enemy places a debuff or disable on this hero, increase their ultimate divinity cost by 1%. What an actual drop in the bucket. I think it's like here. I think it's the bottom of this where it's. I don't see why this is relevant at all. Like 1% divinity is not a lot, right? So, you know, it's happening every time. There could be a lot of them going out, but it's I don't think it's going to slow down the cost of ultimate at all, right? We have Shamash. Shamash says when an ally joins in with this attack, increase their divinity, right? The person's divinity. There's too many moving parts here. It's too bad, right? It needs to be on someone that's bringing in people for ally attacks that cares about increasing other people's divinity, right? Now, Shamash makes sense, right? He's bringing in, like Shamash's kit brings in everyone, so it gives them extra divinity. But to try to fit the Shamash imprint on someone, and we know in the alpha that imprints do not bolster passives, right? If you had an old Zeus imprint on a Zeus, you don't get more damage, right? I know that from personally. That's how I was trying to do a lot of damage in the stages. So if that stays the case, right? The only home for it is Shamash, where Shamash doesn't care about it. Now we have Shinigami. Instant S tier. Any questions? Nah, Shinigami's my boy though. Well, execute an enemy if they have 5% or 5% HP after attacking them. Let's kind of break this down. So you have to be. You could kind of see it as like 5% damage amp in a weird way, but it's only when you're doing the damage to you. So you have to be the one doing the killing blow. So that's like there's like a 1 in 4 chance that you're doing that if you think about your entire team and how damage could fall. So it's like a 1% damage amp. So we put it with the other 1% damage amp. Boom. I think Shinigami is better because you can engineer something with it. But yeah, it's not good, right? You know, it's gonna be hard to hit those. Like 5% HP is like this, right? So to hit those slavers without killing, it's not gonna be relevant most of the time. We have Shishi now. Shishi says when an enemy attempts to place a debuff on an ally, has a 30% chance to heal 3% of their max HP. So whenever they get a debuff, on average, you are healing for like 1% of their max HP. Kind of irrelevant. It is all of allies, so like maybe it's like the top of irrelevant, but irrelevant nevertheless. We have Shorn One. Shorn One says a 25% chance to shake a disable at the start of the turn. Shaking disables is pretty good. Probably like with the Assault A, it's a 25% chance, but when it triggers, it's going to feel really good, right? So probably here. When attacking enemies under freeze, reduce their divinity by 5%. One problem. There's only one character that freezes in the game. And you're looking at it. It's Scotty, and we talked about how imprints don't stack. So let's assume there's another freezer in the game. We did see that the Ymir imprint has like freezing on it. So, you know, Ymir uses it. But reducing divinity 5% is okay. It's kind of like in the Hades thing where like it's doing something, but like it has to be against the right enemy with the right character. Right? Okay, Wukong. Any questions? Got it. Really good. Wukong's passive is nutty. Cannot keep getting away with this. I'm not explaining it. Wukong is the best passive in the game. However, Morgan's is a eternal imprint, right? So Wukong's is technically easier to get than the Morgan's imprint. So just remember that, right? But I think Wukong will have more impact. A lot of people, like we said, a lot of people, same thing with Bobby, same thing with Bach. A lot of people's basics are very relevant to their kit, and getting a cheat death is really, really good. So yeah. Anyway, we have Tengu. Tengu says a 50% chance to decrease target exterminator by 5%. Yeah. Yeah, we're doing this, right? We're happy to do this. Kind of in the same vein as like these guys. Pop a B. Now we have Thorkel. Thorkel likes bleed stacks and gives us cool stuff on bleed stacks. This is probably the best bleed guy in the game. Especially, you know, think of Dracula having 10 stacks on everybody, and then he's like stealing turn meter when attacking, or an AoE bleeder as well, because the stacks won't be there when Drac ultimates. So an AoE bleeder, I don't think there is one in the game actually that I am aware of. And if you can have full bleed stacks on two people on the enemy team, you get 15% DR. I think this is like here. Bottom of S. It's a lot of work, but it really pays you for it, and you want to be stacking bleeds anyway. And a lot of bleed, like Dracula, for example, is like so good at stacking. So Tian Long says enemies or allies under shield deal 10% increased damage and receive 10% less damage. Yeah, that's pretty good. You have to have a shield, but one of the best characters of the game is Heimdall. Giving Heimdall a team-wide damage amp and DR. You know, we were talking about being happy with like taking the damage, right? Like giving everyone else DR. You give yourself DR too and damage amp? Yeah, I think it's top 3. That's spooky. Like, is it even question mark? Question mark? I think you could talk me into the best, honestly. You could talk me into it. But you'd have to be pretty convincing to do that. Right? I think it belongs in 3rd. Right? I think I like Morrigan's and Wukong's better. The Lawlock. The Lawlock says each hit from this hero has a 25% chance to inflict extra damage to a random enemy equal to 10% of the damage inflicted. If you do the math, on average, this is a 2.5% damage increase. It's irrelevant, right? It's a little bit better than Lamashtu, probably in between these guys. With these are the bad damage ampers. Kind of give them a slap on the wrist, knock it off. This entirely depends, though. There's one caveat. It depends if the effects come with the damage. For example, let's say I do like Grendel's core, and it's gonna stun everybody, right? Do those extra hits have a chance to also stun the people? Because if that's the case, this is quite nice, right? Like this might be A, but with the term being extra damage, I don't think that's gonna take the riders with it, right? So I think it's just a 2.5% damage amp. I'm not impressed. I'm really not. Tristan, each debuff on this enemy reduces damage taken by 6%. I mean, that's a lot, right? We're talking about 10% DR being good. On 2 debuffs, you have 12. And then like on a full stack, you have 60% DR from one source. Man, I think this goes like here with our DR boys. Maybe not this high. It is, you know, it would not be slammed with debuffs. But maybe. Question mark. Tristan's imprints is something we're thinking about, I think, right? I think it's something you keep in your back pocket for like Fafnir fights where you're like, wow, I have 5 debuffs on me. I could be taking 30% less damage if I just, you know, if I just took a Tristan imprint, right? So interesting. Critical hits against the same enemy inflict 10% increased damage. Is this multi-hit effects? Critical hits against the same enemy inflict 10% increased damage. I'm not sure what this is. you could read this as it's like a super stacking critical thing, right? But I think I have found in this game that when you read something, you should take the milder interpretation of it. I think this is not stacking. I think this is just 10% damage, right? This is a crit 10% damage amp. It's kind of weird. I'm gonna put it with like the weird damage amps. I think it fits right in here, right? But if this is infinitely scaling, it's like a clan boss infinite scale. Obviously, it's the S tier, right? But I don't think on a rare they're going to be doing that, right? I think it's just a weird 10% damage amp. We'll need clarification on that, but that's okay. Okay, Vesna says for each buff on an ally, increase this hero's healing output by 2%. I think it goes kind of in the same place because of Isis existing, right? We talked about Isis. Maybe you can't spread the buffs, but if it affects men's place by Isis as well, you know, it's kind of mad, but it's not awful, I guess. Okay, Radir says increase this hero's max HP by 5% whenever an ally dies, stacking up to 3 times. Yeah, sure, dude. It's at the bottom of D. Or in the mid of D. Yeah, sure, dude. I'm gonna go kill my friend so you can get 15% more HP. No, it's like no, I'm not doing that. Like, sorry, I'm just not doing that. Maybe maybe with his kit, it stacks up to 6 times, or it stacks up to it gives me 10% for each one. Then I can res them. Maybe, but like, there's better things to be doing with your imprint slot than like weird revive shenanigans, right? Vivian says, this hero increases 10%. Wait, this hero inflicts 10% more damage with their basic attack, doubled when joining attacks. Hot take. Vivian's really good, right? But I think this imprint is kind of with like the Lady Jacques era of damage, like this weird damage thing. It's only affecting the wielder, and you're only doing it on your basic attack, and most basic attacks don't hit that hard, right? And like, it's doubled when joining an attacks, but then it's that weird thing again where it's like, yeah, Wukong wants this, right? Like, Wukong's joining in a bunch of attacks, but it's like, okay, I'm gonna put this on my, on my Guan Yu, and then she's gonna bring him in. Well, that requires like a weird pairing, right? And I don't know if the juice is worth the squeeze there, if that makes sense. So I think it goes like here, right? 10%, very greedy, like very situational, like worse 10% increase, but it's still relevant. Volok, increase all damage inflicted by this hero on enemies under despair by 5%. Why is my conditional? This is bad. It's better than these guys, I guess. Why is my conditional doing only 5% when we see other strength rares in the starters doing 10%? Why do you hate Volok? He's done nothing wrong. He's a good little boy. He deserves more damage numbers. Moving on. We have Pek Totek, the Flayed Man. 150% HP, consume bleeds, and heal when above. Increase the chance to strong hit. So this is a better strong hit enabler if you have the bleeds, right? However, I mean, you don't really want to be consuming bleeds, right? Like, I really don't want to be consuming bleeds. I don't know when this happens either, right? Is this when you hit people? Or is this at the start of your turn? It gets when you're attacking. It says per target. It's kind of okay. Like, I don't know. Like, Achilles, we'll put him with the weird damage, like these guys with the damage boosts. Sure, we'll put him right there. I think he belongs right there. Zalotl. Oh no, that's Zalotl. This hero inflicts 10% damage to enemies under charm. I think this goes right with 10% damage under acid. It's the same thing except a different debuff. There isn't an AoE charm. in the game yet, but there probably will be, right? And so people that have AoE charms, you know, pick your poison. You want acid on them, you want charm on them, right? Pick your poison, because same thing to me, right? So I think they go right next to each other. Now we have Zalotl. Law says 10% chance to join in an ally in attacking. When joining the attack, you will heal all HP of for all allies by 5% and increase this hero's divinity by 5%. This is a Wukong imprint. However, right, it's worse, right? It's like less than half the chance of triggering. But when you do trigger, it is a pretty okay heal, pretty okay divinity. It is a low chance of happening, though. Maybe this is down here. Yeah, it's a 10% damage increase, but it's more than 10% damage increase, right? Maybe like here. Yeah, I think I like the maybe better than Seer. Yeah, it has the same trigger rate as Seer, but then also heals and gains divinity. Yeah, I think that's right here. That makes sense. Cool with that. YDG. Ydrakok. He is do 15% more damage and receive 15% less damage under Blaze. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think this is like the Oda Nobunaga kind of area where you do a little bit of work and you get some nice stuff. I think Oda's a lot better. It gives you better numbers, but then you require less work to get similar numbers here too. Especially if we're talking about the Namsara users. Here's how you keep them alive. It's these two right here, right? Keep them alive this way. Then we have Yang Wang. He has, when an enemy dies, increase this hero's initiative by 5%. Cares. It technically does something. We'll throw it with it technically does something. Like I think Mulan and Brynhild, like it technically does something. Ymir. When this is attacked, you have a 25% chance to place freeze on an enemy for 1 turn. This is like with Athena. They're friends. These imprints are doing the same thing, except I think Athena's is a little better. Is it like here? Yeah, I think it's here, right? I think Athena's is still better because, you know, people that are, like, if you want to get hit, right? But it's this hero. Wait, never mind. Athena's with everybody. It's when allies are attacked under a shield. Yeah, Ymir's worse. I changed my mind. Maybe here. So good though, right? 25% chance to replace freeze. Yeah, it's probably like here-ish. Yeah, I think it's here. I think that makes sense, right? I talked myself down a little bit. And finally, we have Zeus. How the mighty have fallen. When this hero defeats an enemy, the next attack of each ally will do 15% more damage. You rarely have more than 2 people you care about doing actual direct damage on a team. So you have a weird activation of having to kill an enemy, and only like the user and like one other party member cares, right? And the user has to be a DPS because you have to get the kill on an enemy. So I think that puts it like with the weird stuff, like Haroon. Maybe with the weird, maybe with these guys here, right? Put them with Vivian. There you go. And that's it. The tier list is done. This was brutal. It's an hour 20 minutes, man. Thanks for sticking around the whole time. If you did, make sure you drop a like and subscribe. If you do, make sure you comment if you disagree. I do have some mild takes, I'd say. Probably no hot takes, but some mild takes. Yeah, let me know if I missed anything as well. This is a lot of information to take in, and I will catch you guys in the next time. See ya.